Good morning. I'm Don Dickey, a member of the congregation. It's my privilege to welcome you here on this beautiful Sunday morning. And for those of you joining us online with the streaming, welcome as well to this time where we reflect, where we interact, and we recharge our batteries for the coming week. We welcome Daniel Doss to our stage today. He's been providing the music for us. E.F. Schumacher was a respected economist, and a few decades ago he wrote the book Small is Beautiful, in which he makes the point that we end up being part of large organizations, whether it be where we work, our government, military, IRS, and we get lost in those larger organizations. And what's important is to work on a human scale. We do that raising a family. We do that in our church, in our giving of gifts of service and money and time. So welcome today to our human-sized service. And in that vein, we do recognize visitors and guests. And are there any members who have brought a visitor today? If so, be so kind as to stand, let us know their name, where they're from. Do we have any visitors who are comfortable standing and letting us know your name? If there are guests among you who chose not to reveal yourself, we are having a lunch following the service, and you are welcome. You are our guests. And if you would be kind enough to go to the welcoming desk in the center of the lobby, they will take you down and they will let the cashier know you are our visitor.
There are not enough candles to express our grief this morning as we gather with the news of yet another mass shooting early today. 9 lives lost this morning on top of the 20 yesterday, as well as those lost in the 13 other shootings this week that did not make the national news. There are not enough words to express our sorrow that our country has not yet atoned for its original sin of white supremacy. There are not enough memes or angry face emoticons or thoughts and prayers to express our anger that assault weapons are still easily available to anyone with enough money to buy them. None of us has the strength or the energy in the face of so many issues. We gather today, many of us feeling tired, overwhelmed, and despairing. And anger and sorrow are appropriate in this moment, and they are appropriate in this space. But we know we must not stay in that state. At some point, we, as a justice-seeking people, we must choose to act. I'm wondering what type of action each of us might choose to make. Lately, when I'm feeling overwhelmed with the enormity of the world's grief, I'm guided by the idea that all I need to do is the next right thing. Sometimes the next right thing for me to do is to rest so that I'll be ready for whatever comes next. Sometimes the next right thing is to dive into organizing or letter writing or donating time or money or a listening ear. This past winter, when the weather was so cold, local shelters put out a call for help during that frigid time, and members of this congregation felt like the next right thing to do was to open our doors to give unhoused people a place to get warm. Most religious traditions speak of the centrality of hospitality and welcoming the stranger. In the Hebrew Bible, we are told, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby we have entertained angels unawares." Our Unitarian Universalist values impel us to honor the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And welcoming the stranger, then, is holy and sacred work. Through it, we connect to our own humanity, and we connect with one another, the humanity in one another. Chandra de Maria, a member of this congregation who volunteered many hours at the warming center, couldn't be here today, but she did send some of her thoughts. She wrote, "When I joined All Souls last year, it was because I was looking for my tribe, for people who cared about each other and the world. That All Souls showed up with the warming center, opened hearts and the church, donated time, food, blankets, and money, looked people in the eye and said, 'You are welcome here.' That lets me know I have indeed found my people. Thank you for being exactly who you say you are, All Souls." Today, you will hear from several more people who have spent time at the warming center and learn how their lives have been touched by answering the call to do their own next right thing. We'll also be doing Sharing the Journey, so if you will have a personal joy or sorrow to share later, you'll have that opportunity. As we begin worship, we will kindle the flame of our chalice as we do every Sunday. This ritual, practiced in most Unitarian Universalist congregations, links us through time with all who have gone before and all those we have yet to find. And it links us through space as we consider all of the UUs around the world who are lighting chalices today.
Hello. My name is Rose, and I light this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
Will you now please rise, and we will affirm our covenant together. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And if you'll remain standing as that's comfortable for you, and we'll sing together, "Love Will Guide Us." Thank you. You may be seated. Thanks for joining in the claps. That song always needs it, I think. Now is the time for us to share our journey together. One of the important ways that we support one another is by being a source of comfort and care in moments of sorrow, and by celebrating in moments of joy. In a moment, you'll be invited to come to the front to briefly share any significant joy or sorrow you would like to share, and to move a flower from the basket into the vase. After a period of sharing, we'll turn off the live stream audio and the video, and those who would prefer to have their sharing not be broadcast will be invited to come forward. You are also always invited to come forward and move a flower in silence. I will begin by moving a flower for victims of gun violence, for the people who loved them and are now mourning them, and for all those whose own traumas are reactivated each time there's a shooting. If you would please say your name and share your joy or sorrow.
I'm Judith Cady, and I want to use this flower in gratitude for all the prefects, professors, dream catchers, wish spinners, guardians, and cooks of our annual summer camp, which was a wonderful success and lots of fun for everyone. And I'd like to place another flower for Barbara Griggs, our beloved Barbara Griggs, whose mother passed away on Thursday. We are thinking of her and sending her love.
John Fish Kerman, my apologies everyone. You're going to have to hear me twice today because I'll be sharing later too. First, I want to join Rebecca in my sorrow and my outrage at more shootings. More personally, more directly, Rukmi and I are today going to get to meet for the first time my longtime friend's newborn daughter, Avina Hazelia, Hazel for short, which of course is a joy, but is also a sorrow because of all the horrible things she is going to learn about the world we're bequeathing to her. But we can make a better world. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Jeff Lewis, and Friday night I was in the 18th and Main Street area an hour before a young lady was shot and killed for no reason at all. One of my biggest concerns is that there have been so many shootings that we have begun to blur these all together. And I worry that instead of taking these as individual tragedies and going on to take whatever action we're going to take, that we're just simply overwhelmed by all of this, and it becomes impossible to see these as individual tragedies. So I'm putting this flower in today in the hope that we can continue to take the appropriate action and not see these as an incomprehensible blur that just simply overwhelms us completely.
Henry Stover, I share what Jeff has expressed. There are groups in our community, Grandparents Against Gun Violence, Moms Demand Action, Mothers in Charge. They are all meeting. They are all passing out gun locks and other things. They have programs. If you would like to see me later, I can share those with you. But we need to elevate the values that our community has. Thank you.
I'm Amy Robertson. I want to share a joy. A couple of months ago, Judith helped us have a lovely graduation service, and we got to celebrate our son Ethan. And we told you all he was going to Miami, Florida, but he changed his mind. We've been on a long, strange trip choosing schools, and he is in Fort Scott, Kansas. He's got his uniform. He was in his first scrimmage last night, and he's coming to visit for a few hours today. So we are thrilled.
Hi, my name's Mary Roberts. I have a joy. I just was able to, after about 2 years of working really hard, get myself into a part-time position where I'm only working 3 days a week. I had been working full-time, any day, any hour. I'm in the medical field, and I have 3 small children, which I'm sure you've seen us with, and my husband works at home, actually, so we're about to embark on a really sort of different life with just more time, and I'm super thrilled for it, so thanks.
My name is Beth Andes, and I'm sharing a joy. This summer, I've been privileged to moderate our Religious Odyssey program, and I just want to say what a moving, wonderful experience it's been. Everybody who's presented has opened their hearts, and I feel like I know them, and I feel like I care for them deeply, and I really encourage anybody who's not coming at 9:15 to get here.
I'm Ken Yeager. I want to share a good thing that happened, so it goes into the category of joy. Some of you may know Ann Marchin was a member in the past of the Manhattan UU congregation. Last Sunday, she and I made a presentation out there on our trip to Transylvania and talked about the partner church, and it was well received. We enjoyed ourselves very much, had a good crowd. If you really have to know about it, let me know, and I can tell you how you can listen to it online. It's not on video, but it is online on tape. So it was a fun experience. Glad to do it.
Good morning. I am Carlos Etienne. Rayan de Vargas and I own a steel fabrication company. We've been at it for 40 years. After 40 years, we have an international company from Montreal come and bestow to us the respect and interest to create a joint venture for the fabrication of the steel package for the new terminal at KCI. That was a really incredible experience for Rayan and I. Unfortunately, it is regretful that we never received such accolade or respect or consideration from the local steel community. The local steel community called on us like hours before the proposal submitted, time and date was due, hours before. So there is hope in this world. There is people of goodwill, and we're very grateful to those who share such, respect for each other. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Lichten, and I would like to place a flower for the victims of such ignorance, such as hate and bigotry. Growing up in that environment, I know how these people felt. I know what they were going through, and my heart goes to them. And I believe we can stop this at the source. We can stop this ignorance before it begins. And that's why I really enjoy helping children. And I think we can remember that. And if we stop this ignorance right at the base, we can start a better future. So, thank you.
I'm Jane Gilbreth, and after Beth mentioned the Odysseys, thank you, that word just went out of my head. I want to honor Carolyn McDonald, who was the instigator of that program here at All Souls, and who was responsible for the forum program continuing for many, many years. And I just want to say thank you, Carolyn.
I'm Monarch, and I just wanted to tell a personal story. My son fell from a fire ladder when he was 21 years old, fell 40 feet, and almost took his ankle off, broke it, and they didn't think they could save it. And he's lived all these years now with that ankle giving him a lot of pain, and he is going in on Friday to have new surgery done that they think maybe can stop the pain. So I wanted to give them.
I'm Carolyn McDonald, and thank you, Jane, for recognizing some of the work. I have a sister who's 2 years older than I am, and I'd not been able to see her for several years because I couldn't travel and she couldn't travel. And she's been hovering near death lately, and I was able to just go down and visit her in Texas with help from her son, my nephew. You can only, if you take a number of flights, you still can only get within 3 hours of where she lives, so that we arranged to meet at the airport, and he rented a car, and I was able to see her. And my goal had been that she might recognize us, and she did. She will be dying any day now, but her caregivers were wonderful and said how much she had been looking forward to us to come, and she managed to get out a word or two and tried to reach up her arms to hug us. And so that was sad, but it was also wonderful that I could see her. And then on another family note, my daughter and 2 granddaughters who live in France are going to be here this coming Wednesday for a week. And so I'm looking forward to being able to see them.
I'm Walt Wells. As many of you may know, my wife has not been here this year. She had a severe case of sepsis and nearly died. At one point, they had to restart the heart. She is recovering from this, has been in the hospital, I think it's 6 times now since January, otherwise in rehab or nursing care. She is improving greatly to the point that a month ago, the new knee she had been hoping has been installed, and she's getting ready to start walking again. We hope she will be home by the end of the summer, early fall.
We'll turn off the audio streaming now and the video. If anyone would like to share a personal joy or sorrow. Let's sing our children on their way.
Thank you, wonderful community, beautiful people. I'm Henry Stover, Chair of Peaceworks, also a member here at All Souls. And for the past 37 years, we have been neighbors, partners here, and originally Lynn and Chris Cheatham and Charlie Bebb and others were involved in the initial founding. We at Peaceworks and at All Souls, we share some of these same ideals, principles, the inherent worth and dignity of each person, justice, equality, and compassion for all in our relations, acceptance of each other, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, the use of democratic processes, and the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We support you, All Souls, and we ask that you support us in this special offering. This past Friday in the Kansas City Star, I had a letter to the editor titled Mournful Event. It's about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And tonight at Luce Park, 6:30 we have the potluck, 7:30 we have the program. Everyone is welcome. We also struggle against weapons of mass destruction. And this past Memorial Day, 17 persons crossed the line, were charged with trespass. We have our first initial appearance in court down in municipal court this coming Wednesday. That would be August the 7th, 1:30 p.m. at municipal court. And of course, we have our Unplaza Art Fair, and we allow you to have a table at our fair, and we involve you in our car shuttle as we make the rounds to move people. So again, thank you for your past and for your present support of Peaceworks, for we both make a world better. And as the note says here, you make the check out to All Souls Church, and in the memo, you put on there Peaceworks, and if there's cash, it gets divided equally. But you've been very generous in the past, and I thank you again, and we love you.
The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me in the dedication of our offering. to the good works it can achieve. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create toward a just and compassionate society.
Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a heretic, convict, or spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee, a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett of truth, a fugitive or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Czech, a lesbian or a gay? Would you harbor a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a heretic, convict, or spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee, a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett of truth, a fugitive or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Czech, a lesbian or a gay? Would you
Powerful. This poem was written by Naomi Shihab Nye. The Arabs used to say, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is, where he's come from, where he's headed. That way, he'll have strength enough to answer. Or by then, you'll be such good friends, you don't care. Let's go back to that. Rice? Pine nuts? Here, take the brocade pillow. My child will serve water to your horse. No, I was not busy when you came. I was not preparing to be busy. That's the armor everyone put on to pretend they had a purpose in the world. I refuse to be claimed. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint into your tea.
I ask you to please remain seated, and we'll sing one verse at a time in between the speakers of this song.
So, today's kind of an instance of one of those times of, somehow you find out great minds are thinking the same thought. Rebecca mentioned the first principle, our chalice letter mentioned the first principle, and I was thinking about the first principle with my reflection, because honestly, I find it to be one of the harder ones to actually hold to in life. It's easy when it's people you know, especially easy when it's people you like. It's harder to do when you don't know the person, when there's not a connection, if you're just passing by and not being deliberate. That separation makes it easier to think of people as less, or just not think of them at all. One of those examples for me that's troublesome has always been, driving to work or driving around town doing errands and seeing somebody on the street corner, out on the median, with a sign, homeless, please help. That struggle. If it's a nice day and I've had the windows down, do I leave the windows down as I'm pulling up to the intersection? Or as I'm approaching and see the person, do I very slowly raise the window up just to avoid that possibly uncomfortable interaction? Also kind of brings in assumptions about the homeless. I live in a not the best place in town, but not the worst place in town. I don't really see homeless people directly in my neighborhood. I don't work directly with most homeless people since I work with children. Yes, there are homeless families, but it's not always obvious. And so there's that separation. And it's real easy to fall into assumptions. Oh, well, people are homeless because there's something wrong, because they want to be, because who knows? Well, you can tell. Somebody looks homeless. Well, I wasn't really thinking of all that when I volunteered to help with the warming shelter this winter. Really, the first thought on my mind was, oh, we're going to do that? Cool, how can I support? And then realized, oh, you know what? They need people to help overnight. I work nights all the time. It's no big deal for me to stay up, from midnight to 6. I do it 3 nights a week on a regular basis. So I thought, sure, great, I can do this. It fits with my schedule. I'll show up, I'll help out. No biggie. Oh, by the time I came in, so I took the middle of the night shift, most of the people had already checked in and were sleeping. There were a few people down in Conover watching TV. There are a couple of people who were kind of coming and going throughout the evening. And just talking with some of the folks who had been here earlier, hear a little bit about the folks who were taking advantage of the warming center. Somebody brought their dog with them. There are a couple of couples that had chosen a spot secluded so they had a little space to themselves. There was one woman who was sleeping in the elevator alcove because it was where she felt safer, rather than sleeping in the lobby with everybody else. So it was still kind of that divide. Yes, I'm here, I'm helping the homeless, but I'm not really interacting with anybody. Till the morning, when several people started getting up, getting ready, and one woman happened to mention that she didn't have time to wait for us to finish cooking something warm for breakfast because she had to get her stuff packed and catch a bus to make it to work. But she was grateful that her boss let her keep her suitcase in his office while she was at work, because otherwise she didn't know what she would do with all of her belongings. And another gentleman, same thing, got up early, was getting ready, had to make it to work. Wouldn't wait for a hot breakfast, but we were able to get him a sack lunch that they could at least take with them. And that got me thinking. Seeing either one of those people on the street, I'd have no idea. Seeing a woman walk down the street with a suitcase, my first thought might be, oh, maybe she's meeting somebody to catch the bus or get a taxi out to the airport to go on a vacation. Not. She doesn't have any place to live. She's carrying everything she owns with her. So I went home, got some sleep, and after that, when I had a chance to reflect and think, it got me thinking, you don't know somebody's story without meeting them. You don't know. For all I know, some of my coworkers might be or might have been homeless at some point in time and coming to work grateful that they had a place to keep their belongings for that 12 hours, grateful that they had some place to be that was warm for 12 hours. And I don't know. So being part of the warming shelter has really made me open my eyes up that, yes, there are the visible people, there are people that may stand out, that may fit whatever stereotypes people have, but there are so many more people out there that we just don't know. And that's why I'm glad that I was part of this group, the effort, and that it will continue, because you never know who's going to walk in.
Just as long as vision lasts, I must say yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, how is that elusive spark? If they ask what I did wrong, tell them I said yes to truth.
Hi, I'm Marley Murphy, and this is?
Tommy Graves.
First, I'd like to say that Tommy and I feel just a little bit awkward about being up here giving our reflection because we were just one of the willing worker bees. We worked 1 4-hour shift, and so many other people here at church and many of you sitting out here were so much more instrumental. Although something I didn't realize until I got there that night, and Tommy and I were talking about what night was that. It was Kendall's birthday, because Mark had brought in a great big sheet cake that we were able to offer people and say, it's our minister's birthday today, please have a piece of cake. The thing I didn't realize was how many willing worker bees it actually took to do this. When we arrived, it was on a Sunday night. We got there at 6 and opened at 7. And the place, honestly, the place just hummed with people preparing food, getting ready to serve food, setting up tables, stacking blankets, organizing gloves and directions. And there were just so many details. And that was just the tip of the iceberg of what we could see there. Our job was, and it felt like, you're laughing at me. It felt like a privilege. We got to sit at the check-in table. We were the very first people that anyone saw when they came in the door from the cold. And so we practiced a little spiel to say, welcome. We let them know this is a warming center, which means, we're not a shelter. We don't have cots. We don't have showers. But what we do have is plenty of places to sleep. We have lots of warm blankets. Restrooms are to your right. We have a wonderful room in here to my left we've got food, places to hang out. We've got a TV. Tomorrow we'll have breakfast, and you're welcome to stay till 9 o'clock. We are so glad that you're here. Please come in and get warm. And after I had said that about 5 times, I thought, I have never been so proud or so grateful to be a member of this church. I feel like this is the kind of thing that we should be doing, and I was just so proud of us and so pleased that we were able to mobilize like this. Nobody has said this so far, but one of the main reasons that we did this was that the shelters were full. They put a call out to churches, could any church help? And as far as I know, we were the only church that didn't already have a program in place that was able to step up and say, yes, we want to do this, we can do this. For a few nights when it's hard now to think, we're sitting here sweating, or at least I am, think how bitterly cold it was. It was so, so very cold, and wind chill was way below zero. I guess other than my gratitude to our church for taking this on, my other main reflection was, we talk about the homeless in America, homeless people, as if it's some homogenous group, that they're all alike. It's like we're talking about the Chinese or something, They're not alike. Everybody's different. On one hand, we had a table full of older guys who, clearly from their actions and their speech, things they were talking about, they had been living off and on the street for years. They were comfortable, they knew the ropes, they knew what was going on. Then another young guy comes in, he's living out of his beaten up car because he needs it to get to work. He's not sure he has enough gas. And then there was the woman I'll never forget, probably 20-ish, came in the door by herself with a suitcase that was not very worn. She'd come from Oklahoma City on a one-way bus ticket, and somebody gave her a ride from the Greyhound bus. I would be willing to bet the first night she was ever homeless was when she came in our door. And because of this church and all of you, we were able to say, welcome, come on in and get warm. Be our guest. And this was All Souls in action, and I was just so pleased to have the opportunity to be part of it. And you, sir?
Good morning, fellow church members. I was very honored to be a part of this, and I'm very honored to be here to share my reflections from being a volunteer in the warming center. As I was growing up, I remember many times my mom and dad having conversations about people that were homeless. And I remember this one phrase that I would never forget, and I pass it on to my own kids, is, son, you're only one paycheck away from being homeless. You never know how close. You must always respect all people. And when I was asked to participate in our church's warming center, my mind was flooded with many, I guess, visions and memories and thoughts. And I was thinking about how I should behave when I'm there, because you hear all kinds of rumors about how homeless people are. They're violent, they're dangerous, they're just, and then some people really aren't homeless, they're just faking. And three things I thought about that were most important is that you had to be genuinely friendly. I mean, really friendly. They had to feel like they were welcome, that you were glad they were here. You had to be respectful. And above all, to be non-judgmental, to accept people for what they are, for what they have. And as Marley said, there was a spectrum of people here that night. And I learned so much. I mean, like has been said previously, you ride around in your car and you see people standing around all the time asking for money, asking for help. And there's so many of them, you take them for granted. And, I've seen some people roll their windows up. I've seen some people not look them in the eye or catch any eye contact. I think sometimes people who are successful forget about people who've had a harder time, a more difficult time. As I was sitting there with Marley that night too, I also thought back to when I worked for the Western Missouri Mental Health Center. I worked as a psych aide. And this was in the 70s. I'm kind of dating myself here. And I recall so many patients on Thorazine, Haldol, you name it, this is how they controlled people back then. And I remember later on when those places like the Western Missouri Mental Health Center, St. Joe, and lots of other institutes and help organizations just kind of closed up, cut back. All those people had nowhere to go then. And guess where they ended up at? On the street. I'm a veteran. I served in Vietnam. There are so many veterans on those corners asking for help. I think our effort for the Warming Center was just gracious and outstanding. And I look forward to doing that again, and hopefully more people can take part and experience it, because you're talking about passing it forward, paying back. I'm retired, so I have all the time in the world. It was a great evening, a great night that Marley and I shared together. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still my captain loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
I can't tell you how many times I've left this church late at night and thought to myself, what a crying shame it is that we are keeping this place warm and there's no one here, while living in Midtown and knowing how many people are out there with no warm place to sleep. Of course, it's not just our building that's vacant on those frigid nights. The libraries, many other churches, the office buildings. And yet somehow we just take for granted that that's the way life is in our American society. Now, of course, I didn't have any illusions that it would be easy to open our building up. And I also knew that if I were to ever make that suggestion, that I had better be prepared to do some work to make it happen. And I never made that suggestion. But when I saw on Facebook that we had decided to answer the call of the shelters and open up, I think it was in January, the first cold blast we did it, I was like, I need to be there. I need to be there. And I was right. It wasn't easy. We went into it that first time basically on a wing and a prayer. Maybe that's an odd thing to say in a UU church, but a wing and a prayer. And we kind of lucked out. We didn't do some really obvious things like put away the knives in the kitchen or restrict access to different parts of the church. But call it providence, call it God, call it good intentions, whatever you want to call it. We somehow made it through without any serious incidents. But I was scared that first night we volunteered and when we were leaving, what might happen overnight. By the second time we did it, we put in place some procedures. We closed off much of the building. We put away the knives. And it went much better the second time. But of course, we cannot, the experience made it clear to me that we cannot do this all the time with volunteers, that we really are in a position to only do it when the weather is dangerous, as it was during those cold blasts. But we can do it at least then. And we can be part of getting a real solution to the problem that there are people in our rich society with no place to sleep where it's warm when it's cold outside. And as they say, many hands make light work. So the more of us who participate, the easier it will be for all of us to make this happen. That's my call to action to you, and I'm proud to be a part of a community church that answered the call.
Thank you to our speakers today for sharing how this experience changed them, and for knowing when it was time to do the next right thing, which was to sign up and show up. Thank you. We're going to sing together, Answering the Call of Love. You might know it as Standing on the Side of Love. This song has been reimagined by its composer in order to be less ableist. So we can't all stand, but we can all answer a call. So we'll sing this together.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
I hope that you will join us in Conover after this. There's lunch that benefits the children's choir, and also a church chat about the warming center where you can hear more of facts and figures and how you can help. So we'll be there to answer your questions and share some information. Also, I would like to thank the art committee that organized the exhibit out in the entryway. In conjunction with this service today to talk about homelessness, there are photos of folks who are homeless and their stories, and it's moving and beautiful, and I hope you'll take some time. And there is a time with the artist that is when, Jane? She's here. Hello, thank you for that. After the service, okay. I extinguish the chalice, but not the light of reason and the warmth of community or the fire of commitment, because those we take with us in our hearts until we are together again. And I share the words from L.R. Nost: "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of this world. All things break, and all things can be mended, not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, loving intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you." Amen.